Hi, you guys. I want to talk about why I prefer white racism over Mexican racism. Now, let's be clear. I prefer no racism, okay? But if I had to make a choice between the two, I would definitely go with white racists because, in my experience, white people that are racist, they just don't have anything to do with me. They don't have anything to say to you or say to me. They don't have, they don't come up to you. They don't approach you. They don't ask you any questions. They don't invite you to their parties or anything. They just don't have anything to do with you. They don't harass you or anything. And I'm down with that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I can appreciate that. I'd rather you just not bother me and instead of versus pretending like you like me so you can manipulate me or hurt me some type of way. In my experience, they just won't bother you. So I definitely prefer that over, on the other hand, Mexican racism has, I've learned recently, is a lot of harassment. It involves a lot of harassment, and the Mexicans here in Presidio, and Shelby and I, we don't live in Presidio, thank goodness. But the we live like 20 miles from Presidio. That's the closest little town to us. But because of the harassment that we endure, um, I choose to go 100 miles away to Alpine, Texas. We spend a lot of our recreational time, and we spend most of our money in Alpine, Texas, and Marfa, Texas, and Fort Stockton, Texas. And these places are, Marfa, Texas is 60 miles away. Alpine, Texas is 100 miles away. Fort Stockton, Texas is almost 200 miles away. And we go this distance. So even though Presidio, Texas is only 20 miles away, but the harassment is, it's very intense. And I didn't know that Mexicans were as racist as they are, at least the ones in Presidio. And I think part of the reason is, well, I think it's um, amplified because of two reasons. One, because everything is at the border. We're actually at the border. Southwest Texas, we're actually 14 miles from Mexico. We can see Mexico lights from our backyard. And so people here, because everything is at the border, there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of people are playing two ends against the middle. So you got a lot of paranoia here. So when you're an outsider, you're someone coming in from the outside, you know, a lot of people are wondering, well, why are you here? Who you're affiliated with. Are you, some government investigator or something like that? So there's a lot of paranoia too. And then also, being a single female, Mexicans, they just feel like you're, especially the men, they just feel like you're supposed to be exploited. If not sexually, at least financially. We're supposed to at least be able to exploit you, for your money financially. And but and I also experience a lot of harassment from women, manipulation, particularly from the women. And because the city is small and is 90% Mexican, and it's ran by Mexicans, so there's Mexicans in the little government agencies, and Mexicans that work at the post office, and everyone, the Mexicans are all related to each other, one way or another. And so when one harass you, or when one decides that they're going to harass you, it's like a group decision. It's sort of like they're very clannish. They're very clannish. They, you know, I guess pretty much like the Mexican Ku Klux Klan. They're very clannish, and I can tell like when one person is talking to me, that they've gotten some information from someone else, or one person would tell a lie on you, and then you have 20 other people treating you differently and things like that. Where with me, thank God that I'm mature, and you know these type of like gossip, or people lying on me, things like that, that doesn't bother me, because I really don't care what people think of me. I know who I am. So I mean, it's nice to be thought well of, but I'm not controlled by what people think of me. And but another thing, when you're being harassed by so many people, it gets tiresome. So like, I don't go to Presidio that often, and when I do go, I'm pretty much there to take care of my business and get out of there before someone says something disrespectful to me or says something inappropriate to me. And you know, I just don't spend too much time there, because after a while you get battle fatigue. And a lot of people, you hear about battle fatigue or post stress syndrome during wartime, but you don't have to have war. The government doesn't have to declare war for you to be experiencing battle fatigue or post stress syndrome, which in my case is not post stress syndrome, it's battle fatigue, because I don't let it escalate. I don't stick around long enough for it to escalate. And once I saw how the Mexicans in Presidio operate, I started going there as less as possible. And like I said, we spend our money in Alpine, Texas. We spend most of our money in Fort Stockton. So we actually go 100 miles away from home to avoid going to Presidio, because when you're attacked by so many people, and they play lots of little games. They leave little notes on your windshield sometimes. They people will say things inappropriate to you, or ask you inappropriate questions, or say something disrespectful. Sometimes the men will spit in in front of me where I can see it. And just little things. And it's a lot of different people, so it's not coming from the same person. So if you go off on someone, like, you get tired of it, and if you snap, and if you say something, or you curse somebody out or whatever, then it'd be like, oh well, she just went off, she just overreacted, she just went off for no reason. But that's the game they play. It's hard to prove that you've been harassed by 40 different people. So, and you're suffering from battle fatigue. I had this one woman, and I don't know if she meant well or not, but I just wasn't taking no more chances, And she invited me to her house, me and my son. And but at that point, we were talking to each other on the phone a little bit. We run into each other in Presidio occasionally, and we were texting each other a little bit. And when she invited me to her house, I just stopped in my tracks, because I just felt like this is not somebody that I know that well. I don't, and she's from Presidio. She lives in Presidio, and this could be some kind of another little game that they're playing. And because there's all types of games, and the games just, I just realized, like, at first, the first couple of months, it was like a lot of, I felt kind of like I was being harassed. But then I was thinking, well, they just have to get to know me. And, when they feel more comfortable, you know, everything would be okay. But then it like kept going. At like 6 months in, the harassment was still going full blast. And then, like a year, but by the time a year came around, it was like I just don't go there anymore. I like stop going there. I stopped being friends. Stop being. I'm not as friendly as I'm naturally is. When I'm in Presidio, I'm more like just business minded. I used to be the type of person just walk up to strangers and you know just talk about anything. Just mingle and interact with people, even if I didn't know them that well. When I'm in Presidio, I don't do that. I like I say, I take care of my business, and we get out of there as soon as possible, because I don't want to wait around for someone to say something disrespectful to me. Um, you know, just being bothered with the harassment, and then like the only time people really want to, the Mexicans there really want to have anything to say to me is when they selling me something. And most of the things that they sell in Presidio, I have no interest in. Most of it's just old clothes, um, some furniture and stuff like that. But I feel like if I'm going to be treated so poorly, and I'm going to be harassed, then I'm going to take my money elsewhere. And I really like going to Alpine, and I really like going to Fort Stockton. I even like going to El Paso. I like going. I like to travel anyway, but I like going places where everyone is not related to each other, and 90% of everyone that you're going to run into, they speak English. And they're not pretending not to speak English. And it just, the other cities, the further north you go, the more of America that I'm used to. So I don't go south, unless, I just have to, because that's the closest place. But yeah, like you say, white races, to me, I have no problem with them. If dealing with only, solely your own race, or if you don't like to deal with black people or Chinese people or Mexican people, if that's your preference, that's the great thing about America. You have the right to choose the type of people you want to be bothered with. And me, I'm very liberated. I like white people. I like people that like me, put it like that. I don't like any particular group just because of their race. I do like a lot of white people, but you have to pick and choose the white people too. In fact, I had ran into this this one man that I hadn't seen him in 3 years, and we had like a little falling out because he was just very disrespectful. You know, um, he was helping us locate our property, our 10 acres out here, and you know, after that was done, which we he actually didn't do that. He put us close to the property, but we weren't actually on our own property, and I don't know if that was done on purpose or not, but I had to, I told him, I said, I'm not for all that profanity. And, he gave me this story about, he's on medication, and the medication makes him do a lot of cussing and talking, a certain way and stuff like that. Well, I didn't care what the cause was. I didn't care what he did, how he do it, but he wasn't going to do it around me. And so, the second time I had to say something to him, I told him, we can't be friends, you know, and, it got into like, he had like a real attitude about it. And, you know, I had borrowed some tools from him because I was clearing out the land, waiting on our cabin to be delivered. And, I didn't want to give him his tools back here in the mountains where we would just be here by ourselves. I didn't want him to have any excuse to approach me. So I wanted to give him his tools back in a place where a neutral friend, where he can get his tools. And I just didn't want to be out in the mountains, alone with him, because I saw that, he wasn't very civilized. So anyway, I thought I thought I was gonna have to call the police, but he didn't want to have anything to do with the police. So, you know, I dropped his tools off at our neutral friends, and he picked up his tools from there, and that was that. And I hadn't seen him in 3 years. So I seen him after 3 years. I seen him about just a couple of weeks ago, and I was coming into the desert. He was going out of the desert, and we met at the road or in the road. And we stopped and talked. We actually talked for maybe 20 minutes or so, and it was a good conversation. And he seemed to be real, you know, he was like well behaved, you know, he wasn't using any type of profanity or anything. And you know, initially, right after we finished talking, you know, I was thinking, you know, I enjoyed the conversation and everything, and maybe, you know, because we're out here in the desert, and there's only as far as I know, there's only like 3 other families in the desert. And everyone, I mean, we're spaced out. This is Texas, so you know, if you're going to live in the desert, your nearest neighbor could be just like our setup. We have one neighbor. This particular person I'm talking about is about 8, maybe 10 miles away that I've heard of. I've never been to his ranch. um, I have another family out here that's about 6 miles away. There's another family out here that, yeah, that's about an 8, 10 miles away. So this is the distance of the closest neighbors. And so it would be nice, you know, to be on a friendship type of level, rapport with the few people that's out here, in case, you know, it's just good to have a friend, good to have somebody to communicate with. Um, it's good to be each other's like emergency contact if needed. But some people are just, they just, you know, if they're not compatible to you, they just too much problem. Because, you know, after I thought about it, I was like, no, this person, you know, he's subject to change, you know, turn the strip, you know, flip the script as they call it, you know, and then it'll be another issue all over again. So, and you know, I might have to get the police involved for real this time and or next time. So I just decided no, because, and it's sad. It's kind of sad because I prefer, you know, it's sad when you have to choose just taking a chance and being out here by yourself, you know, with no friends, no family. I mean, you know, long distance friends and family, but I'm talking about physically, you have no friends, no family in the immediate area. And the few people that you have run into, they were so not suited for friendship. There was going to be more of a problem than, you know, an access. They were going to be more of a problem than anything else. So it was, you know, you just better off taking a chance with just having you and relying on you. And I mean, now the law enforcement out here is great. Let me give a shout out to the law enforcement. They are great out here. They come out here and they check on people sometimes. You know, they're very friendly. They don't harass the residents. You know, they don't have an attitude. Like when they stop you and they pull you over, they don't have an attitude. They're very respectful, and they're very helpful. They come and get come help people. Like if you're stuck in a ditch, um, we had a senior citizen that was stuck in the ditch, and I had called it in, and the sheriff department came and pulled him out of the ditch. My son and I, we were stuck in the ditch once, and the sheriff department, they came and pulled us out of the ditch. And so, I mean, law enforcement is great, but the like I say, the racism and the games that they play, you know, keeps me out of Presidio, you know. And to me, I feel like if I'm made to feel that uncomfortable, and I'm a very easygoing person, I'm a very friendly person, you know, I mean, YouTube doesn't know this, but I know this. And when you make me feel so uncomfortable that I don't even want to spend any time in the town, you know, I'm not one of those persons, or I'm not one of those people that will take any type of mistreatment and be disrespected and spend my money with you, you know. And my resources, the resources of a entire family, when an entire family, I mean, even though it's a small family, but when you have an entire family deciding that they're not doing any trade with you, um, okay, yeah, it might not mean anything with just one family, but that's money out of your pocket. That's money that, my son and I, we spend over the last couple of years, we probably spent maybe $20,000 elsewhere because of the racism and the harassment in Presidio. So, and recently we've been tailgated where a car would get behind us, and I believe it's the same car. It happened several times, but I believe it's the same individual, little gray car. They get behind us. Now we're already doing 75 miles an hour. They get behind us like just 1 or 2 feet away, and a couple of times I slowed down to like 50, you know, expecting them to just pass us by or something like that, but they wouldn't. So I actually had to pull over. So that's the reason why I don't go to Presidio, because of the harassment. The Presidio has let me know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they don't like black people, and they feel like, if you're a single woman, that you're supposed to be mistreated and manipulated and exploited out of your money, or exploited for sex or anything like that. And so I think because I kind of stand up for myself, I stand up for myself, but also, if I can just remove myself from the situation, I'll do that too. So it costs us money to travel, 100 miles. Marfa, Texas is pretty good. And a shout out to St. George Hotel, because they provide us, and not just Shelby and I, but they provide the public with a very nice place to go for recreational purposes and relax. They open their swimming pool. Is a semi-indoor swimming pool, and they open it to the public after, I think it's after 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. They open the pool to the public, so you don't have to pay to get in. You don't have to have a hotel room to get in. It's St. George Hotel, and they have a beautiful swimming pool. It's only 4 feet deep, so you know anybody can get in and just have fun, not really worried about anyone drowning or anything. And they have a restaurant and bar inside the swimming pool area, and it's very lovely. And so for that, me and Shelby, we spend a lot of time in Martha, Texas, at the St. George Hotel, and it's really great. And it's a convenient place because you can go there and you can swim, or you can just sit around, lounge around, look pretty, and sip on a cocktail, or you can just eat, or you can do all three: eat, swim, and drink, and be merry. And I think it's really a great public service. I don't know if they see it as a public service or not, but I think it's a real great public service that they provide the public with such a nice place to go. And Alpine, Texas is great too. I like Alpine. Now, Alpine is 100 miles away, but Alpine is great because they always have places to you have a variety of places to eat. You have a variety of parks. They have swimming pools in the park, and they have a beautiful park. I can't remember the name of it, but they have several parks, and the people are nice. And there's a lot of hardware stores, which a lot of us on the frontier, we're building, so, or we're doing a lot of things ourselves because we're on the frontier, and you might not always have access to contractors and things like that. So a lot of um, people are looking for hardware stores and or people with livestock. They are looking for supplies and things like that for their livestock. But yes, so yeah, so Shelby and I, we don't do any major business in Presidio. You know, we only go to Presidio when it's absolutely the most convenient thing for us to do. We just purchased a vehicle elsewhere. That that was like $7,000 that we could have spent in the city of Presidio. But to me, and I think that would be foolish on my part to spend that type of money in a city that treat us so poorly. And we get most of our supplies elsewhere. Each month we spend quite a bit of money just on basic supplies in food and building material that we could be spending in Presidio, but we don't. And I don't have a problem with that. And I think that anyone with any type of good sense would do the same, if they were being treated as bad as we are treated when we're in Presidio. And like I say, and I also don't think it's all be based on racism. I think it's a lot of it's based on sexism, because I realized that the people, they're the culture is like a very chauvinistic type of culture as well. So, but either way, it's not, it doesn't work for me, whether it's sexism or racism. I'm getting the short end of the stick if we spend too much time in Presidio. So just so we're not subjected to too much more of their games that they like to play. Like say Mexicans, that's racist, they're very underhanded. You know, they want to get close to you. They want to talk to you. They want to know you. They want to sell you things. They want to manipulate you. They want to exploit you. Whereas white races, they just don't want to have anything to do with you. And I prefer that. I prefer that you just don't have anything to do with me, or do business with me and I don't have to know that you're racist. You know, I, you know, if I'm doing business with you and you treating me with respect, I don't care what's going on in the back of your mind. As long as you're not presenting it, presenting yourself to me in a negative way. So I guess that's all I have to say about that for now. Check you guys later.